Tonight, the encrypted messages they swore were untraceable. Federal agents just cracked them all.
4:17 a.m., Los Angeles, California. The city sleeps under a blanket of marine fog rolling in from the Pacific. Streetlights glow like dying embers through the mist. The 405 freeway hums with sparse late-night traffic. Somewhere in Koreatown, a neon sign flickers above an all-night restaurant, the kind of place where nobody asks questions. But tonight, questions are about to be answered. 17 blocks away, a convoy of unmarked vehicles sits in absolute darkness. Inside, FBI tactical teams run final equipment checks. DEA agents verify target coordinates on encrypted tablets. ICE officers review facial recognition databases. And overhead, two Black Hawk helicopters hold position at 3,000 feet, their rotors barely audible above the ambient city noise. This is Strike Team Alpha, one of 14 coordinated units positioned across Southern California, and in exactly 3 minutes, they will move. The target list reads like a map of the Sinaloa Cartel's California infrastructure. Underground gambling operations in East Los Angeles. A suspected fentanyl pill press facility in an industrial complex near the Port of Long Beach. A luxury condominium tower in downtown where cartel accountants manage shell company finances. A string of massage parlors in the San Fernando Valley serving as fronts for human trafficking operations. And a fortified mansion in the Hollywood Hills belonging to a man federal agents have been tracking for 7 years. At 4:20 a.m., the green light comes. 14 teams move simultaneously. In Koreatown, a SWAT unit breaches the back entrance of a restaurant that hasn't served food in months. On the inside, they find something else entirely. Rows of high-end computer terminals, walls lined with soundproofing foam, and 6 technicians frantically trying to destroy hard drives as flashbang grenades detonate around them. In Long Beach, DEA agents crash through the loading dock doors of a warehouse that city records show as temporarily vacant. The reality inside is staggering. 3 industrial pill presses capable of producing 200,000 fentanyl tablets per day, pallets of precursor chemicals imported under falsified manifests, and 2.1 million fentanyl pills, rainbow-colored, some stamped to look like legitimate prescription medications, packaged and ready for distribution across 11 western states. In the Valley, ICE agents enter what appears to be a residential property. They find 17 women locked in basement rooms. Like some have been there for months. All were smuggled across the border with promises of legitimate work. None were older than 23, and in the Hollywood Hills, the scene turns violent. The mansion's security team, former Mexican military, according to later intelligence reports, opens fire as agents approach. For 11 minutes, gunfire echoes across the canyon. Neighbors later describe it as sounding like a war zone. When it ends, 4 cartel security personnel are dead. 2 federal agents are wounded, and inside the mansion's panic room, agents find a man clutching a laptop, trying desperately to wipe its contents. He failed. That laptop, along with the servers seized in Koreatown, the financial records recovered from the downtown tower, and the encrypted communication devices captured across all of 14 sites, will become the foundation of everything that followed. But what agents find in that panic room goes beyond anything they expected. Not just drug ledgers, not just shipping manifests, but a master encryption key. The kind of key that doesn't just unlock one device. It unlocks a network, and that network, it's called Cero Rastro, Spanish for zero trace. For years, federal agencies knew it existed, an encrypted communication platform used exclusively by Sinaloa cartel leadership and their most trusted associates. Messages sent through Cero Rastro were believed to be uncrackable. The encryption was military-grade. The servers bounced through 17 countries, and every law enforcement agency in the Western Hemisphere had tried and failed to penetrate it. But until now, 48 hours later, FBI Cyber Division, Quantico, Virginia. The room is cold, deliberately so. Server banks line the walls, cooling fans creating a constant low hum. And in the center, a team of 18 analysts stares at screens displaying something that shouldn't exist. Every message, every voice call, every photograph, every video, every financial transaction routed through Cero Rastro for the past 31 months. 47 million files, decrypted, searchable, cross-referenced. The scope is almost incomprehensible. Drug shipment coordinates spanning from Culiacan to Chicago. Human trafficking routes from Guatemala through Arizona into Los Angeles. Money laundering instructions flowing through a web of shell companies so complex it takes specialized software just to visualize it. The network map fills an entire wall. On shell corporations in Delaware, ghost accounts in the Cayman Islands, a sham charity registered in Nevada that supposedly provides agricultural development assistance to Central American communities, a chain of car washes across Southern California, a logistics company with contracts to haul produce from farms in the Central Valley. All of it connected, all of it controlled by a single encrypted authorization protocol. And that protocol traces back to a single user account. The analysts run the credentials through every database available: financial record, property ownership, corporate filings, campaign contribution log, and then they find it. The authorization key belongs to a man named Richard Castellanos. On paper, he's the deputy mayor of Los Angeles, a rising political star, a former prosecutor who built his career on tough-on-crime rhetoric. He's appeared on cable news defending police funding. He's attended fundraisers for victims of drug violence. He's given speeches about protecting California's communities. But according to these files, Richard Castellanos has spent the last 4 years turning Los Angeles into a protected hub for the Sinaloa cartel. The evidence is overwhelming. Communications showing Castellanos providing advance warning of federal operations, instructions from his account directing which city permits should be expedited for cartel-controlled businesses, messages coordinating the timing of port inspections to ensure specific shipping containers pass without scrutiny. One exchange stands out. A message from Castellanos to a cartel logistics coordinator: "I sent 11 months ago. The Bakersfield route is clean through next quarter. Move whatever you need. The way stations are handled." This is not corruption. This is command-level collusion. But here's what makes the analysts go quiet. Castellanos isn't alone. The decrypted files reveal a network of compromised officials stretching across California's political and law enforcement structure. City council members in San Diego, a state assemblyman representing districts along the I-5 corridor, Port Authority officials in Long Beach, and most disturbing of all, 37 law enforcement officers at various levels, from patrol deputies to a captain in the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. The cartel didn't just infiltrate California, they built a parallel system of governance, a shadow structure designed to ensure their operations would never be interrupted. And it almost worked. But Operation Silent Thunder isn't finished, not by a long shot, because what investigators have uncovered is just the beginning. And the next phase, it's going to bring the whole thing down. The next morning, 5 a.m., Joint Operations Command Center, Edwards Air Force Base. The sun hasn't risen yet over the Mojave Desert, but inside this windowless facility, 100 federal agents are already working. On the massive central screen, a digital map of California pulses with red markers. 47 locations, each one representing a target identified through the Cero Rastro decryption. The briefing is led by a woman named Special Agent Diana Herrera, 22 years with the DEA. She's worked cases from Colombia to Chicago. Oh, and she's never seen anything like this. Today we execute the largest coordinated law enforcement operation in California history, she tells the assembled teams. We have arrest warrants for 93 individuals, search warrants for 47 locations. We will have air support from 12 helicopters, naval assets monitoring the coastal approach, and more than 1,200 federal agents deployed across 8 counties. She pauses, lets that sink. Our primary targets include cartel logistics coordinators, financial facilitators, and the corrupted officials who enabled this network to operate. But understand something. The people we're going after today, they believed they were untouchable. They believed their communications were secure. They believed the system would protect them. Her voice hardened. Today, we show them how wrong they were. At 5:30 a.m., Operation Silent Thunder enters its second phase. In the desert east of Barstow, a team of 50 agents descends on an abandoned mining facility. Intelligence suggests it's been converted into a methamphetamine superlab. What they find exceeds estimates. Production capacity for 500 pounds of meth per week. Chemical storage tanks containing enough precursors for 6 months of continuous operation. And tunnels, hand-dug passages leading to secondary storage bunkers hidden beneath the desert floor. In the wealthy enclave of Palos Verdes, another team approaches a cliffside estate worth $23 million. It's registered to a holding company that traces back through 6 layers of shell corporations. Inside, agents find the man responsible for managing the Sinaloa cartel's California financial operations. They also find $87 million in cryptocurrency wallets, which he was attempting to transfer to overseas accounts when they breached the door. Near Calexico, along the Mexican border, a joint FBI Border Patrol unit discovers a tunnel system that wasn't on any previous intelligence maps. This isn't a crude smuggling passage. It's sophisticated. Ventilation system, electrical wiring, rail tracks for moving heavy cargo. The tunnel runs for nearly a mile, emerging in a warehouse on the Mexican side that intelligence agencies had built was a legitimate agricultural storage facility. In San Diego, agents raid a law firm. Inside, they find an attorney who has been structuring financial transactions for the cartel for over a decade. He's also the personal lawyer for 3 California state legislators. In Sacramento, the state capital, a team arrives at the office of Assemblyman David Chen. Chen has represented his district for 8 years. He sits on committees overseeing transportation infrastructure and agricultural policy. And according to the decrypted files, he's received over $4 million in cartel pay, disguised as consulting fees from a company that doesn't actually exist. He's arrested in front of his staff, in front of reporters who happen to be in the building covering an unrelated story. The footage goes viral within hours. But the most significant arrest happens in Los Angeles. Deputy Mayor Richard Castellanos is taken into custody at his home at 6:47 a.m. He's in his bathrobe. His wife is screaming. His children are watching from an upstairs window. The man who positioned himself as a champion of law and order is led to an SUV and handcuffed, while news helicopters circle overhead. By noon, the scale of the operation becomes clear. Across California, federal agents have seized 4.7 tons of cocaine, 2.3 tons of methamphetamine, 890 pounds of heroin, 6.4 million fentanyl pills, enough narcotics to kill every person in the state 3 times over. They've also seized $234 million in cash and assets, 47 property, a fleet of vehicles including boats, trucks, and 3 private aircraft. And something investigators hadn't expected to find: a server farm in an Oakland warehouse containing backup copies of Cero Rastro communications dating back 5 years. The underworld has taken more damage in 12 hours than in the previous 12 years combined. But the arrests of cartel members and corrupted politicians tell only part of the story. What comes next reveals something more disturbing. Over the following weeks, investigators begin analyzing the full scope of law enforcement compromise. And what they find shakes the foundations of every agency operating in California. The 37 compromised officers identified in initial analysis, that number grows: 61, then 84, then 117. Patrol officers who adjusted their routes to avoid cartel delivery vehicle, detectives who buried investigation files, a sergeant who provided real-time information about raid planning, a deputy chief who personally approved the transfer of an honest officer who was getting too close to a cartel money laundering operation. The payments varied. Some received cash. Others got their mortgages paid off through third-party accounts. A few were rewarded with consulting contracts from shell companies, and some were compromised through blackmail, photograph, video recording, threats against family members. One internal affairs investigator, speaking on condition of anonymity, described it this way: "We weren't looking at isolated corruption. We were looking at a second police force, one that answered to the cartel. The honest officers? Many of them knew something's wrong. They noticed pattern, and arrests that went nowhere, investigations that stalled, promotions that went to the wrong people, but they couldn't prove anything. And when they raised concerns, they were ignored or transferred, or, in a few cases, threatened." One detective, a 17-year veteran named Maria Santos, broke down during her interview with investigators. "I joined this department to protect people," she said. "I spent years wondering why we kept losing, why the same dealers kept showing back up, why the same routes stayed open. Now I know. We weren't fighting the cartel. We were fighting ourselves. The reconstruction will take years. Entire units need to be disbanded and rebuilt. Promotion boards need to be reviewed. Training protocols need to be rewritten. The badge itself needs to be redeemed." But Operation Silent Thunder revealed something else. But something that extends far beyond California's border. As investigators dig deeper into the Cero Rastro communications, they begin mapping connections that reach across the entire American Southwest. And what they find suggests that the California network was just one node in a continental operation. The trucking routes don't stop at the state line. They extend through Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, and into Texas. The logistics company with produce contracts, it operates in 14 states. The Shell Corporation network, it has tentacles reaching into Florida real estate, Chicago construction, and New York financial services. The decrypted files contain references to similar operations in Phoenix, in Denver, in Dallas, in cities that believed their cartel problems were local issues, not branches of a unified national network. One set of communications stands out: a strategic planning document, essentially a business proposal, outlining a 5-year plan to establish what it calls permanent operational infrastructure across the southwestern United States. The document identifies California as the anchor state due to its port access, its large immigrant population providing cover for trafficking operations, and, most chillingly, its favorable political environment. The document names specific officials to be cultivated, specific agencies to be infiltrated, specific industries to be targeted for money laundering. It's not a criminal operation. It's a colonization plan. And according to the timestamps on the files, this strategy has been in active implementation for over 3 years. Federal investigators estimate that at its peak, the network moved 12 tons of narcotics per month through California alone. Fentanyl from labs in Mexico, cocaine from South American cartels, methamphetamine manufactured in desert superlabs, heroin processed in hidden facilities throughout the Central Valley. The human cost is staggering. California recorded over 11,000 fentanyl overdose deaths in the past 2 years, thousands more from other substances, entire communities devastated, families destroyed, children orphaned, and all of it enabled by people who swore oaths to protect the public. The investigators working this case have taken to calling it the silent occupation, because that's exactly what it was. An occupation carried out not through violence in the streets, but through patience, money, and the systematic corruption of institutions. The final piece of the puzzle comes from an unlikely source. Among the 47 million decrypted files, analysts discover a folder that wasn't meant to exist, backup communications that were supposed to be automatically deleted, messages between Deputy Mayor Castellanos and his handlers in Mexico. The final message, sent just 3 days before his arrest, reads, "Phase 3 begins next quarter. The foundation is solid. Sacramento is within reach." Investigators are still determining exactly what Phase 3 entailed, but preliminary analysis suggests it involved positioning cartel-aligned candidates for state-level offices, not just assembly members or city officials, governor's staff, judicial appointment, regulatory board. The goal wasn't just to protect cartel operations, it was to reshape California's government itself, and to build a system so thoroughly compromised that no future administration could ever dismantle it. One senior FBI official, speaking at a closed-door briefing, put it bluntly, they weren't trying to beat the system, they were trying to become the system. So what does this mean? For you, for your community, for the country? First, understand what was stopped. Operation Silent Thunder didn't just arrest criminals. It disrupted an infrastructure. It exposed a methodology. It revealed that the threat isn't just violence. It's integration. The cartel's most dangerous weapon isn't a gun or a kilo of fentanyl, it's a spreadsheet, a campaign contribution, a quiet conversation in a back room. Second, understand that this isn't over. The communications seized in this operation are still being analyzed. New names are emerging every day, but new connections being drawn. The investigation will continue for years. And some of the revelations still to come may be more shocking than anything we've seen so far. Already, there are reports of similar encrypted networks operating in other regions, similar shell company structures, similar patterns of political cultivation. Operation Silent Thunder may have been the breakthrough, but it was also a warning, a proof of concept for how deeply organized crime can embed itself in American institutions. Third, understand the price of silence. Every official who took cartel money knew exactly what they were enabling. Every officer who looked the other way knew that their silence meant more drugs on the streets, more trafficking victims in hidden rooms, more overdose deaths in emergency rooms. They chose comfort over duty, power over principle, and the communities they were supposed to protect paid the price. The fentanyl that killed a teenager at a high school party? It moved through routes that compromised officials kept open. The trafficking victim rescued from a basement in the valley? She was transported through corridors that law enforcement was paid to ignore. The family destroyed by a father's overdose? They're casualties of a war that wasn't fought because too many soldiers had switched sides. This is what corruption looks like. Not dramatic confrontations, not obvious villains, just quiet compromises that accumulate. Until one day, you look up and realize the system designed to protect you is the very thing enabling your destruction. Power doesn't always announce itself with violence. Sometimes it moves quietly, through encrypted messages, through offshore accounts, through the slow, patient cultivation of people who are supposed to serve the public, but serve themselves instead. Operation Silent Thunder showed us what's possible when that power is challenged. When technology breaks the walls that criminals thought were impenetrable. When investigators refuse to accept the story they're being told. When honest officers finally get the evidence they need to prove what they always suspected. But it also showed us how close we came, how far the infiltration had spread, how sophisticated the operation had become. The encrypted messages that criminals believed were untouchable, they are now evidence in federal court. The officials who thought their positions made them invincible, they're awaiting trial. The network that was supposed to operate in permanent shadow, it's been dragged into the light. But the work isn't finished. Other networks remain. Other corrupted officials haven't been identified yet. Other encrypted platforms are still operating, their users watching the news and wondering if they're next. This story is a warning about what happens when we stop paying attention, when we assume the system is working, when we trust that people in power are doing their jobs. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they've been compromised. Sometimes the badge means nothing. Sometimes the title is just a cover. The only protection against that is vigilance, attention, the refusal to accept easy answers. And if you've made it this far, If you're still with me, then you understand something important. These stories matter, not because they're entertaining, but because they show us what's actually happening, what we're actually facing. So here's what I'm asking. If this information was valuable to you, tap that like button, not for algorithm, but because every like pushes this story further into feeds where people need to see it. Share it with someone who needs to know. And if you want more of these investigations, the kind that take hours to research and write, the kind that mainstream outlets won't touch, then subscribe. Comment expose if you want these corruption stories dragged into the light. Comment silent thunder if you want to see follow-up coverage as more names emerge from the investigation, because they will emerge. The story isn't over, it's just beginning. And remember, this presentation is fictional, a dramatization created for storytelling purposes only. But the issues it explores, the corruption, the infiltration, the encrypted networks, the compromised officials, those are real challenges facing real communities every day. The question is whether we're willing to face them. I'll see you in the next one.